he seemed to know almost everything about what we were doing. Like he was just a fount of knowledge for all things production.
He's always there and always wants to be kind of helping folks.
I guess to repeat myself, I'm a better person, not just a better professional, but a better person because of Jim.
Jim Moore is Bridgewater, and Bridgewater is Bridgewater because of Jim Moore.
The work in tech support involves maintaining equipment, repairing equipment, working on lists of equipment that we need to acquire so that we can increase the accessibility of production work for students, everything from gaffer's tape to batteries for lights. There are 1,000 moving parts in terms of making sure that the equipment is functioning and accessible. Ooh. Okay, my name is James Moore. I have a couple middle initials in there, but I teach in the Communication Studies Department and work as engineering and technical support here in the TV studio. My connection with media started before I was out of high school. There were no television production facilities in high school. There was no radio production facilities. I was simply writing for an audience, writing poetry, writing short stories, and I continued from there. In my high school yearbook, the caption that was put under me was that most likely to wind up in Hollywood. And I kind of was writing poetry and I didn't think much about that. I went to school, I came here, 1965, and I was an English major, but I then dove into all of the theatrical productions, and I did a lot of acting, directing. I wrote plays that we put on at the local coffee house. I was very active in theater, and when I graduated, I continued that for a couple of years. Then I got hired by the cable company to be a station manager. I worked over in Easton. I worked on regional news programs, and this was all the tape era, where you were using 3/4-inch pneumatic tape, and then we moved into half-inch SVHS tape. So it was all tape cameras, tape editing tape to tape, and it was a lot of fun. I loved doing it. The days were never the same. And when I was running the TV studio, I got invited to teach a couple of classes here because I had been teaching at the college level before, and I enjoyed it. And I've taught most of the classes in the Comm Studies department at one time or another based on when they needed someone to be able to teach a class. And so I've had a lot of fun with it. When's your next class?
I don't have any more today.
No, I mean on...
Tuesday, but I'll bring it back on Monday.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually, when I transferred here, I transferred as a history major, but then switched to communication studies, with, at the time it was called speech communication. My very first video production class I ever took was the spring of '96, which was Jim's first semester ever taught here, so I've known him since '96.
I started at Bridgewater State in 2006, and I was assigned to teach the old COM 215 class, which was TV studio production. This was very exciting for me because I had never taught TV studio production. My university did not have a TV studio, and so I really felt like I was up against it. Jim was, working there, and he was incredibly gracious, kind of being able to kind of help me get my feet, teaching me about like the different aspects there of the studio. I always felt like teaching, there with Jim was an incredible opportunity for collaboration.
I've learned so much from Jim just outside of the classroom because he's taken the time to really sit there with me. Like we would sit there for 20 minutes, like 30 minutes, up to hours, just sitting there talking about something in filmmaking or just the best way for me to be a better filmmaker. I've always felt comfortable to go to him and ask him questions about myself as a filmmaker, as a director, or as a producer. And he's always taken the time to sit there and talk with me about him. And it never felt like I was going over a time limit with him. It wasn't an office hour thing. It was just a genuine human trying to help another human learn to be better.
I think I have like so many great small memories with Jim of like, or small moments with Jim, like getting to learn from him in the studio, or just great stories or jokes. Anytime I get to come into the studio and Jim's still here, even if he maybe said he was going to leave at noon and it's 4 because he's still working away. Anytime that's the case, I'm happy, and I know I'm going to have a good time and maybe learn something a little bit at work today.
Jim has been an absolutely invaluable colleague here at BSU. I frankly don't know what I would have done without him in the studio these first years that I've been teaching classes there. He has always shown such kindness and enthusiasm for taking out the equipment during classes and helping me and the students with whatever projects that we decide to move forward on. He's just a lifelong learner and such a wonderful person to be around. He's created such an amazing space in the studio in that he just has such a welcoming persona, and I know that the students have really enjoyed working with him and being around him in the studio. I know we're all going to miss him so much. I'm so happy that he's getting the chance to retire, and I hope that he comes to visit and say hi, and we'll always think of all the work that he put in to making the studio what it is.
What has changed?
A lot. The campus has changed significantly. Right now, where I'm sitting, if we drop the building out of the picture, that's where I used to park my car in a mud pit. And the ambience of Bridgewater State in terms of its physical appearance has changed dramatically over the years. Now that's one answer. That's the changes in the physical place. In terms of what we're doing here, we're talking mainly about this program, the Comm Studies program. We have gone through tape processes. We had a single edit station where we could edit from tape to tape at one point. Now we have about 19 edit workstations which can edit with Adobe. So that change in the technology has also occurred. And that creates its own challenges. Whereas before we were worried about whether or not tape was going to be destroyed just by standing up and being on the shelf for a long time. Now we're worried about whether or not media cards, SD cards, are going to break or in some other way fail and we lose the media. In terms of the media, the questions and the challenges have not changed. How do you manage your media? How do you edit your media? How do you create something which you can then distribute? All of those things are the same, but the technology has evolved.
I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't met Jim Moore at such an important stage in my life. And one of the big things in my life is I've always looked for role models and mentors wherever I've gone. When I was a USA hockey referee at Dick Brissett, I've had multiple coaches who have really filled those mentorship roles. But coming into college, especially after I stopped playing football, and I didn't have sports to find those mentors, that is and was the perfect time for me to meet someone like Jim Moore. I can honestly say that I've taken so many things from him, in terms of how I view the world and finding ways to stay positive, the importance of meditation, the importance of being yourself and staying true to yourself. And that it's always okay to be yourself and to be aware of who you are as well.
How do you feel about Jim's retirement?
For me, after he retires, I feel like it'll just be a little lonely. Again, he's been with me throughout my film journey since I started, and kind of not having that mentor figure there or someone that I can just go and talk to about my films, it'd be a little lonely.
Of Jim retiring, even if I'm leaving as well, that other students won't get to have that experience with him that I've had, and learn from him. But I know his impact is definitely still lasting.
There was always a joke when I was in college that I was going to be the next Jim Moore, and I used to kind of say like, I'm going to forge my own path and all this, and and I think now in my older age, I think that's maybe the greatest compliment I can never get. I will never be Jim Moore. I am Chuck Scott.
For him, I'm thrilled, right? For us, there's going to be a huge gaping hole where Jim's presence, has been. But this is so well earned, and I'm thrilled for him.
What will you always remember about being at BSU?
Okay, so people. I've met a lot of people in the entire course of my connection with Bridgewater State, and those individuals are what I will remember. So it's not a particular moment, a graduation or an end of a semester, not even the retirement. The idea is that I have these connections with people. That's what I'm going to take with me. And it doesn't mean that I have to see them all the time. They live within me. They live within my spirit, with my understanding. That's what I take with me. And there are so many really good people that I've met. And so many more that I didn't really get a chance to know, to understand, to find out about, that I wish I had a chance to. But that's what I keep. That's what I take. That's what's important to me. It's people and the connections with people that I take from Bridgewater State. I constantly am saying to folks, love you very much, love you, see you later. And it's true. It is absolutely true. If I get to know someone, there is an affection that is kindled, a connection of spirit that is kindled, that is important to me to recognize and to acknowledge with other folks. And I think it's important for other people to feel the comfort level, to feel the acceptance of self, to be able to acknowledge relationships with all the people that they know. It's the balm. It is the soothing, emotional state that makes life worth living. To connect with other people, to acknowledge them, to recognize their worth, to recognize their skills, their point of growth, their point of development, their point of understanding, and take them into your heart. And that's important. So when you ask what I'll take with me, it's people, it's relationship, it's connection, it's spirit, it's breathing well. I love you.